9-2 Ultimate Fighter Season 30 winner Mohammed the Motor Usman taking on 13-9 former middleweight, now 265.5 pound heavyweight. It's the prototype Jake Collier, and if I had my way, Matt, guess what?
I gotta do a bit, I'm sorry. You know Dana White on Friday night is gonna have a if you don't know, now you know kind of fight. And guess what, guys? I'm here to let the cat out of the bag. The if you don't know, now you know matchup of the weekend is gonna be Jake Collier versus Mohammed Usman. There's no question in my mind.
When it does come down to this fight, Matt, I mean, this is a classic clash of styles. You look at both of these guys. For Mohammed Usman, I could bill him as a grappler. Sometimes he grapples. I mean, you can also go back and watch Mohammed Usman's fights against Sipe over on The Ultimate Fighter. You can watch his fight that he had in the finale against Zach Paunga, where he plays around on the outside and he does a little bit of striking. And it took him to lose the first round against Paunga handily on volume, which is something that Jake Collier does very well, to land one big power shot and shut the lights out for Zach Paunga to win the title. Usman, in his UFC debut, his last time out, took on Junior Tafa in a battle of control versus damage. And Matt, sometimes, even in the years 2022 and 2023, control can win fights.
One of the worst fights you'll ever watch, though.
Usman was able to get the win somewhat controversially over Junior Tafa's last time out. So now he gets to take on an established UFC veteran. It's no debuting fighter. It's Jake Collier. Collier, one of the more interesting guys, because we think back to his time at 185 and then his fight against Marcel Fortuna on the way up to 265. But for Collier, since he's moved up to heavyweight, they've given him big names, they've given him small names, and he hasn't been able to beat many of them.
And the thing about Jake Collier was, for the longest time, we applauded him for being a heavyweight who fought like a middleweight, right? Like, after that Jean Vellante fight, it was an impressive, complete performance, and I really thought, hey, I never thought Jake Collier was going to win the title. I'm not getting crazy or anything, but it was nice to see a guy who, okay, he might not be the most athletic guy in the world, but he moves well on the feet, he is very good with his hands, he can throw a high level of volume, and he seemed to have pretty good cardio at that time. But do you think the Jake Collier effect has almost caught up with Jake Collier at this stage of his career? Because it is great to be that sort of undersized heavyweight, if you will. I know he's not undersized in terms of weight, but again, not a lot of heavyweights at any point in their life could have cut down to 185, so he is normally
just chair cannoneer.
Yeah, exactly. Not like Derek Lewis would ever fight at middleweight, but for Collier, he did add that extra hitch to his game that I thought made him quite unique. But at the age of 34, I'm a little bit concerned that it's almost like his age has caught up with him to where those middleweight gifts are now gone. Now you're just a heavyweight who's not really a natural heavyweight, who doesn't really have an X factor every time he walks into the cage, and that is a concern moving forward, because I don't think Jake Collier has something not a lot of other heavyweights in the world do. It's a well-rounded skill set, but the issue is, at this stage of his career, does he have the gas tank behind said skill set, and also the ability to go out there and land clean shots? Because for Collier, he's never been a bad striker by any means, but he doesn't have a hard time really hurting guys with a lot of shots on the feet. He normally really has to mix his martial arts to go out there and get wins, and granted, it's been a while since he's got those wins.
I disagree that he's got to mix his martial arts to get wins. Now, the one fight against Chase Sherman, you had a shimmy slip, and then Collier ends up on the back. He ends up getting the submission by rear naked choke. But you go down through the heavyweight fights for Jake Collier. We'll do a Cole's notes. He fights Tom Aspinall after about a 3-year layoff.
You know how that's going to go.
Yeah, he gets pieced apart, but that's fine. It's Tom Aspinall. He takes on Jean Vellante, and I know that Jake Collier was cut on his nose at the end of that fight, and he was bleeding a little bit. He pieced up Jean Vellante on the outside. Really good, all facets of his striking were working out. From the fight against Carlos Felipe, for a time, I made an argument that Collier won that fight. I like Collier's volume in it, but he loses split decision there. Beats Sherman, the aforementioned slippy dip, and then he ends up with the submission. And then the last 3 fights for Collier, all 3 of them losses. He's one of 5 fighters on this card to lose their last 3 fights. Takes on Andrei Arlovski. I'll go to my grave saying that Jake Collier won that fight, but it's a loss by split decision. Then he takes on Chris Barnett.
Kids are like, Craig, do you love us? And you're like, no. Jake Collier beat Andrei Arlovski, and then you're gone.
Well, against Chris Barnett, he nearly finished him. And most referees would have said that's enough. But
if the other guy is enough in the tank to come back and stop you, I normally disagree with that.
Somehow Barnett came back and Collier was a little tired in the second round. And then his last time out against Martin Budaj, that big guy, he's going to end up in the rankings at some point. And Budai is one of those technical, bigger heavyweights that can not just box, but wear you down in the clinch and then work in some of his takedowns if we do end up seeing it. Now, the big point on this fight, not just with Jake Collier's overall skill set, not just with the fact that Mohammed Usman, even before ending up on The Ultimate Fighter, had a loss to Sales over with PFL where he gets submitted. And it was a terrible look, Brandon Sales. But when you look at this, it was originally supposed to be Jake Collier taking on Titan FC heavyweight champ Walter Walker. And you might go, Walter? Like Waluigi? A little bit. Walter Walker, brother of one, Johnny Walker. So Walker out of the matchup. This fight was announced back on July 14th. So a full camp for both of these guys for all intents and purposes. Usman training out of Colorado for this one. Jake Collier back at Pat Smith's The Pit, close to home. When we do look at the matchup, Matt, Usman is slightly favored here. We haven't really touched on his skill set too much, but we will. We have a look at the Topology vote. Surprised us there to you. Guys lost 3 fights in a row. Hard to pick them. Kind of like the Daniel Lacerda effect a little bit. But
you stole exactly what I was going to say.
Listen, weird stuff's going to happen. Matt, I'm going to say over under 70% Usman here. Under. And it's wild.
Okay, let me go back to Lacerda, though.
765 total votes, 89% Usman, 67% by knockout. Wow.
Okay, this is my big issue with Mohammed Usman. He has a lot of chances to win this fight just by being a lot faster and a lot stronger than Jake Collier. I think from the outside, he's going to be able to land shots if he is able to connect. But the thing about Usman is, he is not an accurate puncher from the outside at all. So if he is able to get that knockout win, if he is able to stop a guy like Jake Collier, I think he's going to take a lot of chances at the dartboard before he's able to hit that bullseye. And I know I said last week when Daniel Lacerda fought, I would never pick a fighter who had lost 4 straight fights, and especially not one who had lost 4 straight by stoppage. I'm about to do the unthinkable, Craig. Give me Jake the prototype Collier, even though he's on a 3-fight losing streak. I hate what I've seen out of him, especially in the last matchup, but I agree with you. I think Budai is a much more talented fighter than a guy like Mohammed Usman, so I discredit that loss just in terms of, I don't think Mohammed Usman can recreate that type of a performance, so give me Jake Collier for being the more well-rounded fighter at the end of the day. But the thing about Usman is, I know he's 34 years old in the heavyweight division, and in welterweight and featherweight and lightweight, you might think, hey, that's pretty old, right? In heavyweight, they can still survive for a little while, but I do worry he doesn't have enough experience for being at that age.
Pull that fishing reel in. Let's see what we got. It's a mackerel. It's not very good, but it is what it is. When I do look at this fight, for me, I'll go with Usman, and the reason being, listen, they're the same age. Usman is most likely going to weigh in less than Jake Collier, and yeah, it's aim big, miss big with a lot of his strikes. He fights kind of, it's almost like Craig Kimbrell-esque. He gets that arm up there, the arm out, and he tosses the jab out there to throw the right hand. And Craig Kimbrell, he's got that dirty salad in the back.
Does.
You ever see a picture of Craig Kimbrell's dad?
No.
He's got the long hair and the beard. Now Craig Kimbrell.
I think everyone should go through a phase like this, Craig.
My boy is just like me. But when I do look at this one, if Martin Budai can slow down your game plan for 3 rounds, I can see Mohammed Usman doing the same. I think the cardio advantage and being at elevation, it's going to pull through. So give me Mohammed Usman in the matchup. We're split on the pick. Let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Will it be the prototype? Will it be the motor? Some big time fights in this card, Matt. Co-main event. Featherweights battling it out. Thug Nasty taking on 50K Dan Ige. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.